What up, guys? So in today's video, I'm going to show you 7 adjustments to make your arm triangle choke better. The arm triangle is one of my favorite submissions in Jiu-Jitsu, but it's also one of those submissions where, again, there's lots of little details that can make it a bit of a bugger sometimes to finish. And so I'm going to show you 7 adjustments that made my arm triangles way better, and I hope it does the same for you. All right, guys, so when we're going for the finish in the arm triangle, one of the most common things that I see from my guys and I experienced back in the day was that they try to go for the arm triangle, but they're too high up on the face. Instead of having our shoulder underneath of the chin where we're putting pressure on the neck, what they're actually doing is putting it right on the jaw. So we go for the catch, the person tucks their chin, and so we end up in this position where we're actually on their jaw. So what we're gonna do to dig that out is I'm going to scoot my butt back just a little bit, and I'm gonna dive my shoulder underneath of his chin. And I think of it almost as like when you're doing like yoga and you do that down dog type thing where you're diving your shoulder underneath. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to slide my shoulder back and then dive it right underneath to lift his head up. So what it looks like, again, is we're here, I'm staying tight and then diving my shoulder underneath. And then once I'm dug underneath there, we can go into the next steps. Okay, another problem that a lot of people have is that they get into the position and they don't have their arm deep enough once they're trying to finish it. And again, trying to go back to the beginning, super tough. So what we're gonna do is when we're in this mounted position, before we dismount, if we're not as tight as we can be with our bicep across his face, then what we wanna do is we just wanna lift this person up just a little bit to the side. We can use our head here pushing. I can lift him up with this other arm here. And then with this hand here, I'm gonna pull this arm deep and through, and then back down to get the grip. So again, very simple thing. Before we dismount, let's make sure that we're as tight as possible with this arm. So what we do is we're here, I lift him up to the side, and I push the arm just a little bit deeper through. And again, just another fraction of an inch can make a big difference when you're actually trying to finish the choke once you're in the side control position. All right, let's talk hand position. This can be very important. So what I'm gonna be doing is the arm that's going across his neck, that choking arm, I'm gonna have that arm palm down. And I do that for a very specific reason. Again, in these tight positions, every little bit of space that you can squeeze out is important. So if you think about it, if my arm, my palm is up, there's a natural gap of space here, okay? When I turn my palm down, and when you do it too, your brachioradialis muscle will flare up, and that'll give us a little bit more snugness with the grip. And at the same time, with this, as I'm here, I'm not trying to do a bicep grip. Again, for me, you might be really long and that's fine. But again, the problem is most of us, if you're up against a bigger person with bigger shoulders, it can be tough trying to grab that bicep. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm either gonna use an S grip here, or I will use a palm to palm grip, gable grip right here. Either one of those is fine. And also what I like about those two is those are a bit more adjustable. If my bicep is here and the person was, let's say really small, well then it's gonna be tougher. Whereas if I grab these grips here, I can always make these tighter and adjust them. So again, when we're going underneath, palm down, palm up, and we're locked in there with the S grip or the gable. So guys, before I get ready to dismount, right, the last thing that I want to do is I want to check and make sure I'm getting close and bringing my head to his head. So again, if we think about how the choke works, we're pushing this shoulder into his neck and squeezing the other side of his neck with our arm, right? So if I go here with my head pushing in, that's going to get this shoulder to push in. Sometimes I've also shown on the channel the chin to the eye cue, but we're going to go head to head. You can almost just put your, you can almost think about having the side of your face touch the side of his face. So if I'm in this position here, when I'm getting ready to dismount, I'm not going to dismount here. Not only will this give him a lot more space, but this also allows him to get his arm through, and that would give him a potential opportunity to escape. So what I want to do is to get rid of that opportunity and also to make the choke tighter, I'm going to take my head and I'm going to try to put my ear next to his ear, and then I'm ready to go here. Just even in this position, it's already tighter, but this is a big detail because again, I'm pushing that shoulder into the neck, making the choke much tighter before I dismount, and then we'll talk about the dismount next. All right, guys, so when we're ready to dismount, we're gonna dismount at an angle, and I'll give you some tips on that. So we've got the position, we've cleared out the depth, or we've cleared out the space with this arm, we're nice and deep, we've got our choking arm in position, and we're head to head. When I dismount, number one is I want to put my forehead towards the ground so this way I can put my weight off of my legs. Again, if I'm sitting here like this, it's very hard to lift my legs up. So what I want to do is get head to head and put my forehead to the ground. This will put a lot of pressure on Brandon. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift my leg and hook the side of his hip here. And all I'm doing is sliding off. Now, here's the important part about this. We want to maintain this angle here. Think about it this way. How are we finishing the choke? We are pushing the shoulder into his neck. Okay, and if I want drive against the person, I have to have an angle. One of the things that I see from a lot of my younger students that try this is they'll be here and they'll be like on the side like this. I don't have the ability to drive into him and squeeze this tight, right? Think about it this way. If I really wanted to drive into someone, I would want to be on the side of their body here, and I can really push into them here, right? I can engage my legs. I can't do that like if I'm like side to side with him here. So what we're doing is we're keeping our knee either pinned on top of the hip or slightly off to the side. This leg is coming out, and there is a drive coming from this leg into the shoulder here to help us finish this choke. So again, we're utilizing our whole body to finish rather than just trying to squeeze with our arms. So once we get here, we get this choke sunk in, head to head, we're in position. I'm not just squeezing with my arms, I'm driving with my foot here and squeezing at the same time. There. So let's look at it again when we're dismounting. So again, we're in position, head to head, forehead to the ground, so we can put our butterfly hook in or our leg to hook here on the top of the hip. I'm going to dismount. I'm going to let the knee block the hip there. Notice I'm putting that right knee right into his hip. The left toe here is active. It's not just dead sitting there. I'm pushing into it. And then from here, I'm going to give him a second because that oxygen can leave him. Now when I'm ready, I'm going to drive in and I'm squeezing at the same time. So it's my whole body moving in to finish this choke, not simply me sinking to the ground and just trying to squeeze. All right, guys, so another really important tip, and this one, you can take this to any of your arm chokes, arm triangles, anacondas, any of them. When you start your squeeze, you want to start your squeeze at like, say, 70% first, and then work it up to 100 versus starting at 100 and working downwards. Here's what I mean by this. Here's why this is important. With the arm triangle, a lot of times it'll take a second. It's not like a rear naked choke where you've got your arm literally wrapped around their neck and have that direct pressure. You have sort of an indirect pressure through the shoulder, and then on one side you have direct pressure. So a lot of times if you watch arm triangles being used, you'll see this position where it's like this, and you'll see like the pre-tap hand come up for a second, and then eventually the person taps, right? There's a bit of a delay there. It takes a second for it to really sink in. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you do not gas yourself out because you got excited to get the choke. I've seen this happen a lot where guys get the choke and they're like squeezing really tight, and then all of a sudden they get tired. And as the person on the bottom, if they have even a little bit of, space left or a little bit of oxygen left or, whatever, where they feel like they can, fight through a little bit longer, if they feel like they have even a little bit of blood flow going, a little bit left and they can hang on, if they feel you starting to let go, they're gonna hang out for just a little bit longer, right? So you start your choke at a very tight 70%, and then you work it up to that full 100, and you make sure that you continue to breathe through the movement and not hold your breath and freak out. So what that looks like here, again, it's hard to see, but once we get to this position, I'm here, I'm dismounting. As I'm here, I'm starting my squeeze slowly, and then as I'm going, I'm squeezing tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and there we go, right? And we make sure that this way we have good strength throughout the entire movement. We don't burn our arms out, not getting the choke, and we don't give him that moment where he feels like, oh, he's getting tired. I'm gonna hang on just a little bit longer. And guys, one of the most important things with any of your submissions, especially when it comes to good training partners, if you have them, like good battle buddies, battle bros on the mat that you're training with on a regular basis, is get their feedback. Right? So for instance, if I'm going with Brandon, and by the way, this is how I figured out a lot of the little cues and the little adjustments that I have now. What you do is, let's say I'm going for this arm triangle choke here, and I'm squeezing really hard, and it's just not working. Instead of sitting there and just ripping on his neck for the next 20 seconds, right? The choke should have been finished. I'll let go of my partner and say, hey, did you feel anything? What did you feel? Why weren't you tapping? And they can give me their feedback. Oh man, you were too high on my neck. You were high on my jaw. That was the one where like the shoulder pressure, getting that shoulder underneath. That's how I figured that out, is because I kept talking to people and they would tell me, oh man, you're a little too high on my jaw. That means I need to get up under the neck. And then how can I fix that, right? And there were other times where, again, I didn't have proper pressure put into them and they would kind of give me feedback on it. So again, with your training partners, use their feedback to assist you. So if you've got a good training partner, you guys roll all the time, you got them in some submission, whatever it might be, but especially these arm chokes and you're trying to figure them out, put them in the arm choke, try to do it. And then if they don't tap from it and you're not sure why, ask them. Say, hey, what do you feel? Why didn't you tap to that? Like, where did you feel the pressure? Get some feedback from them. So this way you can sync up what you feel on top doing the submission and what they feel on the bottom. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that video. Hopefully you got something from it. If you have any other questions about your arm triangles, you can throw those down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching the video. Talk to you next time.